Good people, how you doing? You see, I have a bit of a confession to make. Simply put, I love stacking my CPU coolers, so here's my Be Quiet selection with a Dark Rock Pro 3 out. This is for my Ryzen system, I have the H7. And now, we have a little extra delivery from Noctua that will satisfy that obsession with stacking things. But we'll use these for something a bit more important. So if you guys recall, this is the Legion C530, a nice portable gaming station. You can check out that video right over here. But the cool thing about this whole system is that you can upgrade anything without voiding a warranty. Now, many of you are probably wondering why I'm going through this procedure in the first place. You'd buy a pre-built PC and then you want to upgrade those components. But the whole idea is to showcase that you can upgrade things. So if you have the system for a year and a half, 2 years, and want to upgrade something down the line, it is a possibility. I've had the system for 6 months now, and upgrading the fans and the GPU doesn't sound like a bad idea. And the overall purpose with this upgrade is to see how much quieter I can get the system to run by having a larger CPU cooler, so maybe reducing the RPM on that fan and also replacing those stock fans with something of quality from Noctua, 80mm for the back and two 92mm for the front, potentially also reducing the RPM of those and seeing how much cooler and quieter I can get my system to be. Now, based on a Twitter poll we ran, you guys wanted us to upgrade everything, and I will, except for the power supply. So I am replacing the entire cooling system. I'm adding dual channel RAM and also taking out the GTX 1050 Ti 4GB version and replacing it with a much more powerful GTX 1060 6GB version. And you can pick up these cards for around $280 brand new, or around $200 if you're buying used. And the additional money invested into this system will make a huge difference in gaming performance. All right, let's do the upgrade right after this. So you're saying this is the most colorful way to cool? I'm telling you, the Master Liquid ML360R RGB is the way to go. Cooler Master's new 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler is all about performance in style, with a custom low-resistance radiator and dual-chamber pump with sleeve tubing for that premium look while being totally flexible. The fans strike a balance for air pressure and airflow with transparent blades to perfectly match the colorful combination of the pump that you can sync via its own controller or through various addressable and 12-volt RGB connectors. Alright, perhaps you should check it out in the description below. Alright, so I have all my components ready. Let's begin the teardown. Alright, so here's the deal. The entire procedure went pretty smooth, and I'm surprised that there were no, hidden little nooks for the panels. Like all the back panel, the front panel just removed with ease. Fans are not attached with any proprietary things, and I still wish that they would release the case individually. Now, internally, we have pretty limited height for the CPU tower clearance, less than 100mm until we hit the side panel, which is why I opted for the L9X65. It's a pretty beefy heatsink with a nice low-profile fan at only 65mm with the fan in height, which is awesome. Fits inside there, no problem, and the noise levels and the cooling capacity throughout this whole upgrade are pretty impressive. Now, since my priority was to reduce the noise level of the system because the default fans were quite loud, check this out. I'm so impressed at how much quieter the system now is, both at idle and load situations, that the system is currently running behind me. It is at idle, but it's almost sounding identical in load situations, but it is super quiet, and that makes me happy. A slight hum is there and kind of like approaching the max Q territory for that 40 dBA noise floor. Awesome. As for temperatures, the CPU at load was running only 3 degrees Celsius cooler versus the default fan configuration, so that delta is not really significant. You're not gaining anything performance because the CPU, all 6 cores were running at 3.4 gigahertz. And the thing is, I cannot control the RPM of the fans. There is no control in BIOS, there's no utility software for this Legion PC, so I kind of have to let the motherboard do its thing. The CPU fan was running almost at 100%, while the front fans running at 1600 RPM while they're rated at 2000 fans, and the back fan is a bit slow at 600 RPM, and that little fan is rated for 2200 RPM. So you could squeeze a bit more cooling out of this case and these fans, but the motherboard doesn't allow it. Luckily, we're not sacrificing on cooling and noise levels. It's just that we have a lot more RPM potential built into here than what we're capable of achieving with this motherboard. The GTX 1060 ran much hotter, but that is by design. The 1050 Ti's are much cooler GPUs. And also I removed the shroud, so that might have something to do with it. But the blower style form factor here is important because it can exhaust the hot air from the GPU outside of the case, which is important for such a small form factor. Now, as for gaming performance, obviously the GTX 1060 is a massive upgrade over the 1050 Ti in FPS. So at 1080p at high settings, we're looking about 21% increase on Quake Champions and CSGO, over 60% in Overwatch and Far Cry 5, and a crazy improvement in Witcher 3 at 113%. As for 1440p, we're seeing the same result, so only a 14% increase with CSGO, 35% in Quake Champions. You know, Witcher 3 is over 100% again, which is awesome. And Overwatch and Far Cry 5 are crazy in their like high 60% improvement in FPS. Now, performance aside, I really appreciate the entire user experience. You know, it's almost like making a case review and building in something that is designed to be like a standalone enclosure. You populate all your components in it in terms of like accessing your hardware, removing the side panels, actually removing the motherboard so I can access the backplate for the CPU cooler. And it didn't feel like any different. It almost doesn't feel like a pre-built system. It almost feels like me upgrading something that I've built in the past. And of course, that is important for potential C530 and C730 owners who might upgrade some hardware down the line and have that peace of mind and not be locked down to this like some sort of proprietary interior design. And of course, the warranty carries over to all the original components, which is awesome. So now the GTX 1050 Ti is out of there, but yet I still have warranty for it, which is great. And so if you do get that base configuration for 850 bucks with a GTX 1050 Ti, you have a lot more performance that you can squeeze into this system down the line by upgrading the GPU to GTX 1060 maybe, or 1070, because we have an 8-pin PCI connector for the power supply here. So pretty happy with the performance increase. And now I can potentially sell the 1050 Ti to, you know, counteract that price difference between what I would spend on that additional GPU. I also put in dual channel memory in here instead of the single DIMM 16GB kit on the default configuration, but it's kind of wasteful because in the BIOS I cannot overclock the CPU nor the RAM. So this RAM is rated for 3200 MHz, but it's running at the default 2666 MHz, so I'm losing a little bit of performance there. So I wouldn't upgrade the memory because you cannot overclock it. And I'm pretty happy with this blanket upgrade, replacing all the cooling and the GPU for a lot more power in games that runs so quiet than the default configuration, which was like over 54 dBA. That was way too loud, versus now that is what I'm happy with. Treat your ears with the incredibly comfortable HD 5.8X Jubilee headphones from Massdrop and Sennheiser, delivering sound expected from $500 headphones, but only for 150 bucks, making it one of the best price to performance skins available. Check out and join the drop down below. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to check out this other relevant content. Make sure to subscribe to our new boot sequence channel, and we'll see you next video.